What's going on, guys? Welcome to another Doctor Who Classic review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the second Doctor Patrick Troughton story, The Ice Warriors. This is the first story for The Ice Warriors. I've already seen The Seeds of Death, The Seeds of Death, which is the second Ice Warrior story with Patrick Troughton. However, I haven't seen this one, so I was interested to see what this was like, the introduction to the Ice Warriors and everything. So yeah, I was really interested to see what this one was going to be like. It's 6 parts long, however, parts 2 and 3, I believe. Is it parts 2 and 3? Yep. I think it's parts 2 and 3. Yes, parts 2 and 3 are animated, so a little bit of animation in there, but yeah, I was interested to see what this one will be like. Anyway, this is The Ice Warriors by Brian Hales. In the distant future, Earth faces a new ice age. While a dedicated team of scientists battle to hold the approaching glaciers at bay, a startling discovery is made deep within the ice, an alien warrior frozen for millennia. When the Doctor, Jamie and Victoria arrive, they soon discover Earth is under threat from the Ice Warriors, fearsome Martians intent on conquering our planet for themselves. So that's the back of the DVD there. Yeah, interesting story. It's the Earth in the future, there's another ice age, and they discover this strange creature frozen within the ice. So yeah, let's basically get started with this one, starting off with the cast. Patrick Troughton is the second Doctor. He's really, really good. What am I going to say? I mean, he's always really, really good. I don't think this is, by far one of his, not necessarily that it's a bad performance of his, because it isn't always a very good performance, but I think just generally with kind of moments that he has and stuff, he doesn't have quite as many in this as he has in some other stories that I've seen of him, but he definitely is still really good throughout this whole entire story. So good. I love Patrick Troughton's Doctor more and more every time I watch him. So yeah, really good stuff there as always. And the same goes for Fraser Hines as Jamie McCrimmon. I've said this pretty much every time as well. Every time I watch him, I love him even more. And yeah, that's the case here. Jamie's just such a cool character. The chemistry with with Fraser Hines and Patrick Troughton's amazing. And also just Fraser Hines seems to have really good chemistry with all the other actors and actresses, because he's great with Deborah Watling, who plays Victoria as well. Just really good stuff, and his character's just good. Gets a decent amount to do here. He ends up going on the search party for Victoria, and he also ends up getting captured, and kind of all this other stuff happens to him. And yeah, gets a decent amount to do here, so I like Jamie very much here. And the same goes for Deborah Watling as Victoria Waterfield as well. She actually probably gets more to do than Jamie in this story, I'd say, because she kind of gets lost. Kind of gets captured, I don't know, she kind of just mainly gets lost at the start. She ends up finding the Ice Warrior. She also finds a group of people, another group of people, and she's kind of the, a lot of this story is about actually the Doctor, Jamie, and the rest of this crew trying to get Victoria back, because they don't know where she's gone. So a lot of this is actually, she's on her own. Well, not necessarily on her own, but she's not with the Doctor and Jamie. So I think that really brings out companions a lot. It really, just gives them another edge. Really does a lot of good for them, and that's definitely the case here with Victoria. I think she was very good. So on to the good and the bad, starting off with the good. The TARDIS materializes on its side. I thought this was quite interesting. The TARDIS, it actually takes a little while for the Doctor and co to come into this story. There's probably a good 5 or maybe even 10 minutes, maybe not quite that long, but at least like 5 minutes of this story at the start of part 1, where we don't see the Doctor, Jamie or Victoria at all. It's just kind of this crew, these people on Earth doing their expedition and all this sort of stuff. And when the TARDIS does finally arrive, it lands, it kind of materializes on its side, which is a strange thing. I mean, the Doctor's not very good at piloting the TARDIS, especially here, since he doesn't even get it the right way up. So that was funny, and then them having to, bust their way out, busting the doors open and having to crawl out of it. It's just a funny little thing. It just, especially for Patrick Troughton's Doctor, you can totally understand how he would land the TARDIS in such a crappy way. So yeah, it's just a nice little funny scene. This is of course the first appearance of the Ice Warriors, which is awesome. I do quite like the Ice Warriors, a race that haven't been used that much altogether. I mean, they've only really had 4 appearances in the classic series and only 2 in the new series, so only really 6 proper appearances altogether. And I mean, in 2 of those appearances, they weren't even the main bad guys, I don't think. I haven't actually seen the 2 Peladon stories, but from what I understand, they aren't actually the main villains of at least one of those stories. But yeah, the Ice Warriors, I think they're pretty good. I will be honest, from what I remember, it was a while ago since I watched the Seeds of Death, but I do remember kind of liking them a bit more in the Seeds of Death. I don't think they were, I mean, they had a nice kind of introduction and everything here, and you know, all backstory and all that sort of thing, and what they are, who they are, what they do, where they've come from. But I don't know, I just generally, there was more of a, I don't know, I just had a better feel of them in the Seeds of Death, whereas here, I don't know, maybe it's just because they're not as fleshed out, because yeah, this is their first appearance, but I just don't feel like they're quite as engaging in this story as they are in future stories that I've at least seen, but they're still very, very good. Decent enough animation. I swear I've heard people say that they don't really like the animation for this story, and although I don't think it's as good as, it's definitely not as good as like the Moon Base and that, I mean, it's actually from the same sort of time. I'm not sure if it's the same animation, you know, style or whatever. It does feel a little bit different in places, but I don't think it's quite as good as that. If it is the same, then maybe I'm just crazy, and I mean, it's been a while since I've like watched the Moon Base and that, but yeah, I don't know if I prefer it to the current animation, you know, of like Power of the Daleks, Macroterra, the kind of animation that they're currently using, because that animation is good in some ways, but I also don't like it in other ways. It's kind of a bit middle ground, I'd say, this one. It's decent enough, but yeah, it isn't the best animation, but it doesn't put me off. It didn't put me off at all. So I think, you know, for what it is, considering we don't have the surviving episodes for those 2 episodes 2 and 3, this is definitely perfectly fine to kind of, you know, substitute, that's the word I'm looking for, to substitute in for the real visuals. So I like that. Some interesting and different music. That's something I really found in this story. The music's very different from the very start. There's some kind of, it actually reminded me of The Curse of the Black Spot, the 11th Doctor story from Series 6. Kind of the almost choir-like, you know, like, my voice was like breaking just then. I'm not even going to try and do another impersonation of that, but it's very like high-pitched, choir-y sort of, I don't know, just triumphant, but like not music. It's not like upbeat and yeah, we're doing this. It's kind of just like really, it's hard. It's like a choir. It's like a choir singing, but it's very high-pitched, and yeah, it's weird, different music that I haven't really heard from Doctor Who, but I did quite like it, and I think it really fit in with the setting of the ice caves and, you know, just the whole snowy landscape. I thought the music fit in really well. Finally, for the good, Clint and Penley's arguing about computers or humans being superior. So basically, Clint is the leader of kind of the base on Earth, and everything in with him and his crew, they all have to go by this computer first. The computer makes all the decisions because the computer is superior. There's a lot of banging going on, I'm sorry about that, if you just heard that. The computer's superior and he has to run everything by the computer first. But Penley, who I believe used to work with Clint, who's kind of gone off and done his own thing now because he doesn't like the computer. He thinks that humans should be able to make the decisions for themselves because, yeah, the computers can be really, really good at some things, but at other things, it's not a human, it doesn't have that human instinct, so it's not right. And I really like their bickering. I think it's really well acted between both of the actors, and generally it's just an interesting concept. You know, you've got this whole thing with the Ice Warriors, but there's also this subplot of computers versus humans. And I mean, although Clint and his team are all humans, Penley often, says he regards him as basically a human machine, a walking machine, because this computer's just in his head so much, he just relies on this computer so much that he's almost a computer himself. And I really like that dynamic, and I also like how in the end the computer doesn't really work out, so Penley does his own thing and it works out, and that's how they save the day. I really like that as an ending. Yes, did I kind of see it coming? Yeah, I pretty much saw it coming, but yeah, I still really liked that kind of plot going on there. So on to the bad, there are a couple of things I do want to say. First of all, the Ice Warriors' voices are, well, I said more annoying than I remember, but I actually looked back on my notes for the Seeds of Death, because I've only seen it once, and I did actually make a note on that one as well, that I didn't really like it was more the breathing actually that I had an issue with in the Seeds of Death. It was just kind of annoying with all the breathing that they did all the time. And that was also the case with this story, but it was also more just the talking. I hated the way if they ended a sentence with an S, they kind of lingered on the S. They were like, and it was like they just had a weird lisp, and it just kind of annoyed me. Generally, in the new series at least, I quite like the voice of the Ice Warriors. It's something a bit different and generally doesn't annoy me, but yeah, for both appearances in the classic series, but mainly for this one, the voices do annoy me a little bit. Also, the Ice Warriors don't look great. I don't exactly remember how they looked in Seeds of Death. They were probably the same actually, but yeah, I did notice that especially like the main Ice Warriors that did the talking looked decent. They looked alright. I do quite like the design of them. They are quite obviously people in suits, but this is like 1966 or 5 or whenever it was. 65 I think this one. Let me look at the DVD. 1960, oh no, 1967. I've got my, no, of course, 65. William Hartnell was still there. Was he? Yes, he was. My numbers are getting all confused. But yeah, the Ice Warriors I just didn't think looked as good in this one, especially the ones, they had like different faces and they just looked really bloated and strange. So yeah, that was a bit weird. And also, 6 parts does make it drag on quite a bit. This one could have quite easily been a 4-parter and it would have been perfectly fine. As for 6 parts, I did feel like this one really did quite drag on, and I was actually getting a little bit bored in the middle. Luckily it picked up a little bit more towards the end, but yeah, 6 parts definitely not needed for this one. Alright, so for a rating, I'm going to give the Ice Warriors a 7.5 out of 10. It's still a good story, don't get me wrong, I do quite enjoy the story, and a 7.5 is still a good rating. I generally regard a 7 as an average. 7.5 is generally my sort of average area. That doesn't really make much sense, but that's just how I work, and how a lot of people seem to work actually. Yeah, I think this is a good story. It's my least favourite Patrick Troughton that I've seen so far, but that's still not saying a lot, because an 8 out of 10 was the lowest rating I had for a Troughton story up until this point. Still, a 7.5 being the lowest rating for his era so far after watching 10 of his stories. Yeah, he's not doing so bad, is he? Yeah, I do enjoy the story very much. I do think the main issues, though, are that the costumes, I think, have dated quite badly. But hey, this was 1967. Gonna get it right this time. And also, the story does generally drag quite a bit in the middle and towards the end a little bit. But yeah, still, a 7.5 out of 10. It's still a decent enough story. Anyway, that's going to be it for this video, guys. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.